everyone, and welcome to the Hungaroring here near Budapest. It is hot, and after an exciting race yesterday, we're certainly looking forward to an even more exciting race today. Fact is, yesterday Mercedes-Benz had a double win, and again today Mercedes-Benz is very dominant with the first 5 positions in the qualifying, and Lukas Auer is going to be starting in pole position. Now the question is, with 4 colleagues, 4 Mercedes-Benz behind you, is that good or bad?
No, it's good. It's good. It was a very strong qualifying for us. I'm on the best position, so let's see where I end up.
But I'm sure your colleagues are going to push.
Sure, but I'm also pushing, so no worries.
I'm sure you will. Best of luck for the race, Lukas, and now to your commentators.
Thank you very much, Verena. We are looking forward to a race, and as Verena has indicated, it is hot. Boy, it is hot. We had a bit of cloud cover a little while ago, and they were quite dark clouds, and it did rain a little bit yesterday. It rained more than a little bit overnight, and we were wondering whether we might see a little bit of rain before the start of this DTM race, but it came to nothing. So as you can see, everyone is enjoying the heat and about to enjoy the race to get underway. Good crowds here at the Budapest circuit, the Hungaroring. This fantastic track opened back in 1986. At 23 kilometers or so from Budapest city centre, 4.3 kilometre track, 14 turns. 8 of them are right-handers, 6 of them left-handers. It's quite undulating. The track sort of slips away from here. The start-finish straight and goes downhill, down towards the back of the circuit, where there's the inviting picture of the aqua park, which neither Chris Hartley nor myself have had the opportunity to visit over this weekend, which is a poignant time to introduce him. Good afternoon, Chris.
Afternoon, Dave. Yeah, we forgot our trunks again, didn't we, this year? Just as well for everybody else, I would suggest.
Yes, I agree with that. Yesterday, it was a dominant performance by Paul di Resta. Lukas Auer was very quick, though, as well. And sure enough, in qualifying today, Mercedes has been very, very strong. As we look at the back of the grid, and unfortunately, BMW not having the time of it here at the Hungaroring. Bruno Spengler going from right at the back of the pack. All the quali times were quicker than yesterday, as we look at Joel Eriksson, who is going from P17 on the grid, the BMW M4 DTM driver. The rookie driver, his quali time, a 1:37.530. The best that gives him is a P17, so 2 BMWs right at the back of the grid, regrettably, as we continue our quest through the grid. Mike Rockenfeller, his quali didn't go quite the way he expected either, but we'll hear from a fellow Audi driver in just a moment, that being René Rast.
All right, so now I'm very lucky that René's got an umbrella with him, because here it's really nice and cool. Oh, I wouldn't mind having one of those as well. But on the serious side, you're P6 and you've got a whole wall of Mercedes-Benz in front of you. So what's the strategy? How are you going to manage to go all the way in the front?
Good question. I think they are in a very good position, to defend. They have 5 cars in front of me. Whenever I pit, they can react. So it's not going to be very easy. Hopefully at the start I can maybe pass 1 or 2. But it's going to be a very difficult race. Yesterday, actually, we had some good pace, so hopefully we can actually beat them in pace. But they look strong today.
And what about the weather? Are you hoping for rain?
That's why I have an umbrella. We don't know, actually. It was drizzling just 10 minutes ago, a little bit. Right now, it doesn't look like rain, but you never know. Yesterday, it was a big shower, just out of nowhere, so let's see.
But let's say the wind is picking up a bit, so let's see. Best of luck for the race, René. Thank you very much. Back to you.
So René Rast then, hoping for rain. Be doing a bit of a dance down there on the grid. I should think he's the best of the Audi qualifiers, as we now look at another Audi driver, and that is Loic Duval, who will be going from P13 on the grid. And Chris, if ever there was an example of how difficult it is to get it right in a DTM car, Loic Duval, hugely experienced racer, hugely successful racer. Haven't seen him at his best in DTM, have we?
Not yet, but it's coming, you said,
yes.
Don't you? Yeah, he's World Endurance Champion, he's a Le Mans winner, he's had great success in GTs over the years. And as he's been quoted as saying before the race this weekend, last year, race pace was actually quite good. It was qualifying where I struggled, and we're so evenly matched that it's very difficult to come through from the back of the field. But he's improved upon that, definitely, this year. And he's got himself in the points yesterday, and a bit more work to do from further down the grid today. But Loic 13th on the grid, still with a chance of a top 10.
You're absolutely right. Let's hear from the best of the BMW drivers now, Timo Glock.
So now I've got Timo Glock with me. Timo, yesterday was a pretty tough day for BMW and for you, of course. Also today, best BMW is you in P8. So again, it's going to be very tough. So everybody's kind of talking about the weather. Are you kind of hoping for rain to mix it up a bit?
I mean, that's one parameter which could play a big role today. But at the moment, I think, yeah, I would be happy to have a dry race, to be honest, because we found some good pace this morning. I just made a mistake in qualifying; otherwise, we would have been in the top 3. But that's how it is. I mean, you know, you lose 1 or 2 tenths and you're out of position already, and then now we are in the middle again. But it's a much better position than yesterday, and we just need to try to make the best out of it and see what weather will do. I mean, if that's coming, if the rain is coming, that's going to mix up everything.
That's for sure. But best of luck for the race. Got to push hard, and back to you.
Well, very interesting what Timo is saying then. He could have been in the top 3, but he made a mistake. Okay, here's the grid then, row by row. Lucas Auer, pole position. Pascal Wehrlein completes an all-Mercedes front row.
And an all-Mercedes second row with Paul di Resta, yesterday's winner, just ahead of Edo Mortara.
Then we go to the third row of the grid where we find Gary Paffett and René Rast, the best of the Audi drivers. He goes from P6.
Next up on the fourth row of the grid, the final Audi is Daniel Hungedea and Timo Glock starting in 8th.
Then we find Nico Müller and Jamie Green, an all-Audi row 5 on the grid for the second race here at the Hungaroring.
Row 6, Robin Frins and Augusto Farfus.
So Augusto Farfus going from P12 on the grid ahead of Loic Duval and Marco Bittman, who are P13 and P14.
Then on the 8th row of the grid, Philip Eng and Mike Rockenfeller, who started yesterday's race from dead last.
And then bringing up the rear, Joel Eriksson, the rookie BMW driver, and alongside him the experienced former champion Bruno Spengler, P17 and P18. And there the cars are all set. So very interesting what Timo was saying there. We both know, Chris, that you get one thing wrong in quali and you get really heavily penalised for that. But Timo clearly had the pace to be up there, didn't he?
Yeah, he actually went quickest for a time, didn't he, in the qualifying session earlier on today, which kind of came out of nowhere because the BMWs, as we know, if you've been following the racing this weekend, have struggled. They didn't get a single car in the points in the top 10 yesterday. They had a couple of cars in the first qualifying session that just scraped into the top 10, and then in the free practice this morning, in kind of similar conditions to this, they were the slowest 6 cars out there, and then suddenly Timo banged in a lap midway through qualifying, which for a time put him fastest in the session, and he wasn't able to repeat that. As he said, he made a mistake on his second flying lap and ended up just in 8th place. But clearly, at least with Timo's car, they've made some strides forward. That said, he was kind of standing out from the rest of the BMWs, who all seem to still be struggling generally.
Yes, and I was going to say, that's exactly the point I was going to make. He was the standout BMW driver. René Rast then, the current DTM champion, goes from P6 on the grid. He is the best of the Audi drivers. And as was mentioned, he's got a huge queue of Mercedes cars ahead of him. So what can René Rast do from P6 on the grid? Bear in mind, every race, 55 minutes plus 1 lap. All the drivers have to come in for a mandatory pit stop. Remarkably, in the race yesterday, Chris, as we look at Gary Paffett, the British driver, who's 2-time winner this season so far, remarkably, given the temperature and given the track conditions, a number of drivers pitted very, very early on, didn't they? And I questioned the wiseness of doing that, given that you've got to make the tyres last then for the almost the entire race. But, to be fair, when you're mired somewhere in the grid where you don't want to be, you've got to almost try any strategy, haven't you? You've got to roll a dice.
Yeah, Jamie Green perhaps was the biggest surprise, because if you're further down the grid, maybe you take a gamble with nothing to lose. But he was 7th on the grid,
yes.
And he was one of the 3 drivers that came in at the end of lap 1, along with the BMWs of Bruno Spengler and Philip Eng. And then at the end of lap 2, Timo Glock came in, Joel Eriksson came in as well. A pretty early stop for Pascal Wehrlein at the end of the 3rd lap of the race as well. At the opposite end of the spectrum, Mike Rockenfeller was the last driver in, wasn't he, from last on the grid. He did 27 laps before coming in to change tyres, but he still didn't quite get in the points.
Remarkably, he drove really well on those tyres, didn't he? He was still maintaining a fair pace, wasn't he? Pascal Wehrlein we look at now then, going from P2 on the grid. Pascal Wehrlein then, of course, out of Formula 1, back into DTM, the youngest ever DTM champion, and Pascal Wehrlein really getting to grips in qualifying today. But the pole sitter is the young Austrian. Lucas Auer then, driver of car number 22, finished P2 yesterday, goes from pole position on the grid for race 2 here at the Hungaroring. And Lucas Auer will head them all into turn 1. cloud cover has increased, Chris.
Definitely, yeah. It's a bit volatile, the weather here, in that you, as René Rast said, you think, yeah, it's definitely not going to rain, it's beautiful, and then these clouds come out of nowhere, and yesterday at the end of racing, huge thunderstorm and a massive amount of rain. Here's some GVs of the city, some beauty shots of Budapest, which is only, what, 30-minute drive from the circuit itself. And a city, Dave, which is steeped in culture and great architecture, but it's got one of those cities that has a vibrant, modern and contemporary side to it as well. It's a beautiful mix and well worth the visit. And as I say, just a short drive from the circuit, easy access to this track, making it one of the most likeable venues on the DTM calendar for an annual visit here. And their confirmation of how they're going to shape up once again after that, again, very tight qualifying session that we had this morning. Lucas Auer nearly got pole position yesterday, Dave. He made a mistake on his final flying lap. This time he nailed it, but he was only 63 thousandths quicker than the impressive Pascal Wehrlein.
Yes, it's always very, very tight in qualifying. And what I love about DTM now with these 20-minute qualifying sessions is it's short, sharp, and it's showbiz. And the drivers have 2 times to deliver, really, because they split it into 2 parts, don't they? Get it wrong, you get penalised, as we heard from Timo Glock, you know, made one mistake and finds himself P8 when, in his opinion, he could have been in the top 3. In the Drivers' Championship, Gary Paffett then on 79 points, Timo Glock on 72, with Paul di Resta following that win yesterday, P3 on 57 points. So there is yesterday's race winner, Paul di Resta, going from P3 on the grid. You can just see lurking behind the Edo Mortara car, going from P4 on the grid. Edo, of course, taking his maiden win in Mercedes livery, Mercedes car for DTM. Paul di Resta taking the win yesterday, and the grid girls making their way off the grid now as we're approaching race start time. 55 minutes plus 1 lap, that mandatory pit stop to come. And there you can see the Pascal Wehrlein car. It was he and Lucas Auer that were in the 136.7s, the only 2 drivers to get into the 136.7s. In fact, only 3 drivers got into the 36s. And it was Lucas, Pascal and Paul. The rest were all in the 37s. But again, it's just tenths that split the entire grid, Chris. It's so, so very close in qualifying. Equally close in the race as well, we anticipate. So Lucas Auer in the final stages of preparation ahead of the start of race 2 here at the Hungaroring. And the drivers from here head off to the really rather less space-oriented street circuit at Norris Ring. So from the wide open spaces here at the Hungaroring, it's the Norris Ring is the next round before we head off to Zandvoort. Then it's back into the UK at Brands Hatch. And of course, night races at Misano, which is going to be something very special indeed. Nürburgring, Spielberg, and then the final at Hockenheim. So there we can see 4.3 kilometers. The track, 55 minutes plus 1 lap. The air temperature 29.7, track temperature 42.1. Negligible wind. But again, it's darkening. From our comms booth right on the start-finish straight, which is just exactly where those people, the spectators, were sitting. It goes visibly darker. The sun has disappeared behind the cloud, which all of a sudden makes it feel much, much cooler straight away. So we'll see how the weather will affect things as the race plays out. So Broly's up, but that's more protection from the heat rather than any raindrops at the moment, though. I was interested to hear that there was, René Rast was saying there was just a little bit of drizzle just before they were making their way to the grid. I was really surprised by that. So the cars fire up then. Uli Fritz and the Mercedes-Benz team then. Lucas Auer is offered the final good luck before he sets off in his installation lap. He was a cheerful chap, you know, Luki Auer. Super guy. Mentioned in qualifying yesterday, we see him as a top racing driver, and there is the trophy that they all want to get their hands on at the end of the race. So the clock counting down before the cars will be released on what is their sighting lap, and they'll make their way towards the right-hander, then dip downhill. Huge train of Mercedes cars, split only by René Rast in the Audi that is P6. And Lucas Auer then, the look of focus and concentration as the lights go green and the cars get away then. And now, Chris, you were explaining, when it comes to warming these tyres ahead of the start of the race. You can't afford to be too aggressive because you can actually do damage to them as they head towards the grid.
Absolutely right. Yeah, you've got to be very careful how you build up the temperature in the tyres, because if you go too hard, too quick, and too aggressive on the formation lap in terms of weaving, braking, etc., you can damage the surface of the tyre. So you have to be very careful with this. Of course, no tyre warmers allowed as well, so that's going to be a factor when they change tyres in their mandatory pit stops in the race. Those cars will slip and slide around for at least a lap, Dave, lap and a half. So some real driver skill required there. I would say yesterday, Gary Paffett managed that better than most. Lots of times drivers were coming out of the pits in the pack of cars and just weren't able to fend off the cars that had already got their tyres up to temperature. Gary managed that better than most. He lost a couple of places, but he kept a big pat behind him, and by the end of the first half lap or so, he's actually going back on the attack. So the championship leader, Gary Paffett, let's see how he gets on in this one. 2 times a winner already this season, the 2005 champion and 4-time runner-up in this DTM. Great to see him back on top form. And let's see how Paul di Resta gets on as well, having rocketed up to 3rd in the championship table, picked up another point for being in the top 3 in qualifying earlier on today as well. So it's on Sundays where he struggled more than Saturdays so far this year, but that seems to have been allayed. And just to make the point as well, they have to go back, Dave, to the start of the 2015 season to find a race weekend where we had the same winner on Saturday and Sunday. It was Jamie Green, right at the start of the season at the Lausitz Ring back in 2015.
Well, there we are. Cars are all fitted with DRS as well. Now, DRS, they have 12 laps worth of duration of DRS each driver, and you have to be within a second gap of a car ahead of you before you can use it. But once you activate it, once you use it, you've then got to use it 3 times in the lap. You can actually only use it once if you so choose, but you actually lose those other 2 opportunities. So it can be used 3 times in the lap, but there is a restricted usage now, and it's very interesting. We saw yesterday, didn't we, a lot of drivers finishing with lots of DRS left over and spare. Right, millimetrically perfect into the grid box goes Lucas Auer ahead of the start of race 2 here at the Hungaroring. The rest of the cars come into the pack now. We can see Timo Glock making some really quite significant adjustments to his brake bias, that little wheel to the right-hand side of his driving position that he altered into the BMW garage, with the tension beginning to build in the Audi garage as well. There's Mr. Dieter Gas then, the head of Audi Motorsport. And the green flag from the marshal at the rear indicates that all the cars are in their grid boxes and the start sequence can get underway. Once 5 lights extinguish, we will be racing. It's race 2 at the Hungaroring. Lucas Auer will try and dive to the inside to protect that inside line going into turn number 1. All cars get away safely, and sure enough, Lucas Auer has denied Pascal Wehrlein the opportunity. Gary Paffett already on a charge look, right behind Paul di Resta and alongside Edo Mortara. Edo Mortara to the inside of Paul di Resta now as all the cars go through turn 1. 1 or 2 do run wide, but it is Lucas Auer from that P1 position, and Gary Paffett looking really racy right at the start of this race as they make their way downhill now, going through turn 2, and Timo Glock has spun around. So whether there was a touch there that pushed Timo Glock into that spin, I would think so. Of course, he is on cold tyres. Chris, did you see what happened?
Just saw the puff of smoke and the yellow car emerging from it. So you're right. It was what a quick recovery it was from him, wasn't it? Mega reactions to get it pointed in the right direction about 2 seconds later. So of course it's dropped him way down the field, but Timo Glock survives, and he doesn't. Yes, he's at the back of the field, but he doesn't lose huge amounts of time. But this might now change whatever strategy they had in place to begin with.
Absolutely. But Timo will have the bit between his teeth now. He will be utterly furious. And if anything, that will give him the impetus to charge his way through the pack. You can be sure of that. We already know how quick that BMW is, the quickest of the BMWs. And Timo now will be charged and fueled with adrenaline following that 360, which, as Chris said, he recovered from really rather well. Be interesting to see how that happened. Now, all the cars are on relatively cold tyres, but Timo tends not to make mistakes, and I rather wonder whether he was just touched a little bit, and that was what sent the back end of the car pirouetting around. He's got Joel Eriksson and Bruno Spengler ahead of him now, 2 BMW drivers for him to get past, and he's going to pit early, Chris.
Yeah,
and he ain't the only one.
No, Rocky's coming in. Opposite strategy of yesterday to Rocky, where he was the last one in. That was the first one.
Okay, Timo, pit stop lights, pit stop lights. You know who spun you?
Well, that suggests he was sent into the spin, doesn't it?
also in Joel Eriksson. Here comes Timo Glock then. He's the one that has got to try something different. Rocky on his way out. Eriksson now.
Timo, tell me who spun you if you can.
Let's listen in. Well, now we can... Yes.
Yeah, it was those two that came together.
Now
Front right of Muller's car touching the right rear corner. It wasn't a straight into the back of him job, was it? They were both fighting for the same corner.
And I suspect, in fairness to Nico Muller, what happened there as he turned in, cold tyres, the car pushed on a little bit, made contact with Timo. Timo went around. Of course, he's the one that suffered the most. So we've seen Mike Rockefeller, Joel Eriksson and Timo Glock, who've all pitted early. Now, it'll be interesting to see whether race control take a look at that, but I have to say, I think it was just one of those things, to be honest. So Paul di Resta there, P3. Lucas Auer is beginning to break away. He's not quite out of the DRS. What he's going to try and do is make sure he's a second ahead of Pascal Wehrlein, which will deny Pascal Wehrlein the opportunity to use DRS on Lucas Auer. Of course, the moment Pascal Wehrlein were to get past him, having used DRS, as in comes Augusto Farfus as well, of course, the roles would be reversed and DRS would become available to Lucas Auer. So bit seesawish the use of DRS, depending upon who and where you are.
Copy, pit lane, pit stop light, pit stop light. Three cars have stopped. You will fight them for position at the exit. Might be close with Timo. Control the tires as good as you can.
In comes Augusto Farfus then. Stops the car perfectly in the grid box. The team goes to work in terms of changing the tires.
Go, go, go. Watch the white line, watch the white line.
It's really important, that information, all that data they're giving the driver, so he's not surprised when he comes out of the pits. He knows what he's going to be coming out into, and he's come out well ahead, hasn't he?
He has. He is ahead of, but of course he's going to be on cold tyres now. Mike Rockefeller should have got his tyres up to temperature now.
He's got a reasonable advantage there.
Yeah,
though,
he has.
I think he might be okay.
Now, we just saw up on the screen, change of climatic conditions. You know, I'm just wondering whether down at the back of the circuit, as Timo Glock now is reeling in Joel Eriksson, and to the inside. Well, Joel didn't defend that too hard, did he, as Timo Glock now tries to make his way up the order, having got an awful lot of work to do over the remaining 50.5 minutes, plus one lap of this race, having been turned around following that contact with Nico Muller on the opening lap.
In a sense, you want to do a series of qualifying laps now. In another sense, he knows he's got to make the set of tyres last for most of the race, so he's got to control the aggression, hasn't he? The incident between Glock and Muller is under investigation. There were 1 or 2 spots of rain on the camera lens there.
So we wondered off at the back of the circuit whether it was beginning to rain. It certainly looks like that. So Lucas Auer now crosses the line. He's still not been able to break that 1 second, has he?
No, 0.9 of a second it is, 1 minute 39.852 versus a 1 minute 39.821. So fractionally quicker on that. That was Pascal Wehrlein. And quicker than both of them was Paul di Resta in 3rd place with the 139.6. And quicker than them, Mortara and Paffett are in the 139.5. So it's all starting to squeeze up in the top 5, Dave.
Here's a replay of the start then, and for my money, Pascal Wehrlein got a marginally better start than Lucas Auer, but he dived straight to the inside to protect that inside line. Jamie Green was also another man on the hurry up there, trying to just show his face to the inside of Timo Glock. Timo Glock, though, battling with Nico Muller, and of course that would end in tears or tyre smoke. Here, as you can see, Timo Glock going around. So the wiper is on now, so look at Gary Paffett and Edo Mortara. All of a sudden, look at this, it is really beginning to come down in certain parts of the circuit, Chris.
And that was a good reason not to come in early, because if you come in early, like Timo Glock, for example, and then it rains, you've got to come in again to change tyres, whereas these guys, if it's bad enough to have to change to wet tyres, at least they can get their mandatory stop done and out of the way and change the tyres at the same time.
Now, if anyone can drive a wet track on slick tyres, it is the people like Gary Paffett who are able to seemingly be able to control that. They're going to obviously see whether this, because we've had showers, haven't we? It's nothing like the monsoon that we saw last night at the moment, but obviously the conditions are difficult, and I would suggest that Pascal Wehrlein is dealing with the conditions a lot better than Lucas Auer at the moment.
It's not everywhere either, is it?
No.
I mean, we're at this side of the circuit, start-finish straight, turns 13, 14. I don't think there's any rain there at the moment. So with the other side of the circuit. Over the line they come suddenly. Look, 1 minute 42. So they're going 3 to 4 seconds a lap slower. And now it is starting to rain over here, and quite heavily as we get the change of lead. Pascal Wehrlein through down the inside at turn 1. Terrific car control. Auer down to second place. They're both well clear of De Resta in third position. But now this is a voyage into the unknown. You've no idea how much grip you've got until you get there. In a sense, Lucas Auer, even though he's dropped to second, has a bit of an advantage here because he can see what happens to Pascal when he gets to the corner and react to that.
So, the Mercedes-Benz of Pascal Wehrlein now leads the race. There was a big battle going on with René Rast and Daniel Juncker-Deyer, and also joining into that is Robin Frins as well. So wet tyres are admitted now.
Farfus in the pits for the second time.
Oh, Edo Mortara just loses the car there. The DRS has been disabled. They wobble their way over the curbs. The back end of the car's stepping out because the grip is really being challenged now. As the rain comes down just a little bit heavier, the wet tyres going onto the car of Augusto Farfus then. He's one of those drivers that had already stopped. So he is really penalised effectively, Chris, isn't he, by taking that early stop, as you indicated. His second time into the pit lane. But Augusto Farfus is on wet weather tyres now.
He needs it to stay wet now because if it dries again, he's going to
go
in for a third time, hasn't he? Joel Eriksson, in these wet conditions, he's revelling though. Look, he's all over the tail of Timo Glock.
The incident between Nico Muller and Timo Glock, the car that you were looking at just a moment ago, is going to be under investigation. Timo gets it wrong. Joel then has to lose the front end of the car almost in avoidance. Now, the thing is here, Chris, we've seen it come down in bucketfuls, haven't we? But we've also seen it to be really rather short-lived. Look how Pascal has been able to lose Lucas in his way.
They're going to turn in now. The cars just want to go straight on, and we might see a change for third place here as Mortara gets alongside De Resta. De Resta's going to have the inside line down for turn 2. Here comes Edo, though, trying to come around the outside in the Mercedes. Nose to tail, the two brand mates. Through he comes. Out to third place for Mortara. Gary Paffett closing in, and René Rast as well. He's up there with them now, and I'd say he's probably brought Daniel Juncker-Deyer with him. So it's all starting to form a queue here for third downwards. So terrific car control. 500 plus brake horsepower to try and control. It's like trying to run on ice with a pair of high heels on, isn't it? There's no grip whatsoever.
Absolutely so challenged. So there is Timo Glock, and you can see it really pouring down now. The wipers are on absolutely flat out. So Timo Glock goes for the middle, and Joel Eriksson dives to the inside, but Timo is able to carry just a little bit more momentum through the middle of that turn number 1 and head downhill once again. So at the moment, the drivers are hoping that this is going to be very, very short-lived because none of the rest of them have dived in, Chris.
Yeah, apart from Farfus. Bittman's coming to the pit, so I assume he would have changed to the wet tyres. We'll see what the lap time is like now for Augusto. Right, 1 minute 39s is what they were doing in the dry. They're now doing 1 minute 51s and 1 minute 52s. That's how wet it has become, and we'll see on this next lap time what the conditions are like with the wet tyres on for Augusto Farfus, as we see a move there for Daniel Juncker-Deyer. And side by side with Gary Paffett he goes, and look at the car of the race leader Pascal Wehrlein twitching away there. Likewise for Mortara in third place.
In comes Lucas Auer. Lucas Auer has decided he's going to come in and change to those wet weather tyres. Pascal Wehrlein and the rest of the pack continue on the slick tyres for the moment. So in comes Lucas Auer. Now, yesterday, the Mercedes-Benz crew were not the quickest in terms of changing those tyres. Also coming in are Philipp Eng and Bruno Spengler. Oh, and he's made a mistake.
Oh, no.
I think he's probably locked the car up coming into the garage, and the damage to the front.
It's so wet in that pit lane.
Somebody needs to get me.
Somebody needs to get me, he says. Damage to the front.
Somebody needs to get the seatbelts on. Seatbelts on.
Oh, goodness.
So seatbelts have come off as well. So he's in all sorts of strife here.
Seatbelts.
Oh, look at that, just locks up.
You wouldn't exactly say he was approaching fast either.
No.
The mechanic was right in the way of the car then as well.
You can see him turn.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And he was just gingerly coming in.
And
they're okay.
Yeah, he did hit a marshal as well.
2 of the marshals, yeah. Hope they're okay. And yeah, look how wet it is now. They've got no choice, surely, but to come in. In front of us, the grandstand from the sloped roof, it's like showers coming off every corner. It's absolutely streaming down.
So Wehrlein continues to lead. Our best wishes with those that were involved in that incident, of course, and we'll give you more information as and when we get it. But to be fair to Lucas, you can't speed in the pit lane, Chris. You're at a speed limit.
No, he was. You wouldn't exactly say he was coming in recklessly. Not at all. He was coming in very gingerly. There's nothing he could do about that.
Coming back out again, though.
Yeah.
Despite the damage to the front of the car, he's out behind Augusto Farfus, who, of course, and we see the ambulance from our commentary position going down the pit lane now to attend to the marshal who got caught in that incident with Lucas Auer.
Farfus wasn't exactly flying compared to those on slick tyres, though. He did 159.6. Some of them out there are still doing 157s. Well, they've all got. I mean, they've all got to come in and change to the wet tyres now.
Safety car now. So safety car has been deployed. Now I wonder if this is because the ambulance is actually in the pit lane.
Yeah, I would suspect so. I would suspect so. Because you can make your mandatory stop behind a safety car, but it doesn't. You make a stop behind the safety car, but it doesn't count as the mandatory stop, can it? So they've got to come in shortly.
Edo's done the same, hasn't he?
So yeah, gone straight on.
You see, that concrete, it's almost polished, isn't it, in
Change
the pit
of
lane?
surface, yeah. The hot lane, the fast side of the pit lane, that's very different grip level-wise to when they come into the box. And Paul Di Resta coming in, I'm sure all the teams will have been on, red flag.
Oh, it's going to be red flag.
Sure all the teams will have been on to the drivers to let them know to be ultra careful coming in, having witnessed that. So the race red flagged with 41 minutes 23 seconds still left on the clock. And it's like it was last night, just a huge downpour. So this is Mortara coming in and having a really same problem. And
he's taken the entire gantry out.
Yeah, and one of the mechanics I think was involved in that. Marshall almost getting taken with the car as well.
Bruno Spengler the same.
Yeah, another of the race crew sent head over heels, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yes, really head over heels.
Yeah.
Well, all our thoughts, of course, with those that were involved in those incidents. The race has been red flagged, as you can see. So the cars we can see there parked up on the start-finish straight are Philipp Eng and Marco Bittman.
Look at that shot. It doesn't really look like it's raining that much, but believe you, looking out the window, it is coming down pretty heavily, yeah.
You made the point of just looking at the guttering from the grandstand, which is right in front of our commentary booth, and it is coming out of there like a shower. But now, if you look at that camera shot...
Yeah, I think it's going to pass,
and
quite quickly. And the track yesterday, we saw drying pretty quickly. We had a Formula 3 race at the start of the day yesterday where they all came onto the grid on wet tyres, made the last minute change to slicks, started on a damp but drying track with the still very damp sections offline, but within 10 minutes it was dry, properly dry, so just dried pretty quickly here. Of course, it's 29 degrees still, so that's going to help matters.
Well, you and I said as we were walking back here following our visit into the paddock earlier on, the weather could really shake things up in the race, but neither of us actually thought that it was going to happen, did we? We were looking at the sky and thought, it looks like it's set, but all of a sudden it did, but shake up the race for reasons that we would really rather it didn't. It has. So Bittman and Eng are out of their cars. The rest of the cars all coming back into the into grid boxes. Now, of course, bear in mind any restart will be well, I would suggest initially behind the safety car. Then, of course, it's the Indianapolis-style restart where they go side by side, Chris, which is in itself is an exciting feature of the DTM now. But there's frenetic activity in the pit lane, as you can imagine, with the medical crews attending to those that potentially might have been injured following those. I mean, the drivers were just utterly powerless to do anything about it, weren't they?
Totally, no control. Even at those low speeds, the tyres just didn't give any grip on that surface, did they? You see them skidding straight on. And the more you brake, the worse it becomes. It was just aquaplaning, wasn't it?
Yes.
So, yeah, very difficult, and I'm sure the professional local medical crews here at the circuit who were very quickly on the scene, I have to say.
Yes.
Very quickly on the scene, which is great to see. We've got them now seen too, everyone involved. Sunshine's starting to break through already. If we look out towards the garages opposite the commentary box. You can see it there, actually beginning to shine down on the pit lane now. So it's a real muddle, isn't it? Some have been in already and changed tyres twice and made 2 stops. Mike Rockenfeller wants to know what on earth is going on. And now you've got the choice of, when we do get the race restarted, do you go with wets, because it is wet, and you're probably going to have to come in again if it doesn't rain again, and that's not guaranteed, to go to slicks, or do you gamble with slicks, be terrible for a few laps, but save yourself a pit stop?
Can I just say, the big beneficiary here, in my opinion, could be Timo Glock. Because after he was turned around, he had to, he chose, or the team chose, joint decision probably, to pit early, came in. He has not gone into the pit lane to put wet weather tyres on.
No, he didn't make the second stop.
He's done his mandatory stop, hasn't he?
Yes.
And if that track does dry out, he's going to be on the right tyres, isn't he? I just think he could be the big beneficiary here. Let's see how it pans out.
Yeah, I mean, the sun is now suddenly beating down upon us again. They're all going to be getting the weather apps out, though, because, yes, if it stays like, look at the blue sky, it's going to dry really quickly. You're going to be struggling for a few laps on slick tyres. It depends when we restart. If we don't restart for 15, 20 minutes, it could even be dry before the start. But there's still some dark clouds out in the background, isn't there?
Yeah, but it will only, I mean, this track does really dry out quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Uli Fritz making his way down the pit lane then.
So as the race stopped, it was Wehrlein, Paffett, Mortara, the top 3. Hunkadeo was 4th, De Resta was 5th, Rast was 6th, Muller was 7th, Green was 8th, Duval in 9th, and Frins in 10th place. But they'll have to go back a lap as the last complete lap before the red flags came out. And that might be a very different picture, given that lots of drivers were coming in the pits at the time of the red flag.
Yeah, Mortara being one of them, of course. Right.
There's a lot of people jolly glad they chose the grandstand with a roof there, I suspect. Not everybody is quite so lucky around further down.
From where we're situated in the main grandstand, which is opposite the paddock, the faulty guttering that you so eloquently mentioned just as it started raining, there's not a drip coming from that now, is there?
No.
So, yeah, the conditions have changed, and actually, you know, you can almost see, from our commentary position, you can almost see the track beginning to dry out. Uli Fritz and Dieter Gass in conversation there. The boss of Mercedes-Benz and Audi, respectively. And there he is, the René Rast car. That's Philipp Eng, the Austrian driver, and new into DTM for this year.
So drivers who haven't been into the pits to make a mandatory stop yet, Wehrlein and Paffett, the top 2. Mortara, who's 3rd, was actually in the pits. Hunkadeo in 4th, not in the pits yet. And Muller and Green are the other 2. Farfus has made 2 stops.
Now, when as Timo Glock makes his way into the garages, when the race was initially stopped, the clock was stopped as well, but now the clock has restarted, Chris.
Feels like there's more activity now in terms of instructions being sent to teams and drivers as to, right, this is what's happening, this is when you need to be ready.
Right.
It's a bit of a buzz suddenly, isn't it? But there is still the medical crew. One of the ambulances has gone, but one of the other medical crews is still there attending to the scene of one of those very unfortunate incidents down in the pit lane.
I mean, the Lucas Hauer coming in first of all was the precursor, if you like, to a number of cars. The Edo Mortara one was the one that took the entire gantry out. You know.
Yeah, as you say, it's like a polished surface, like a marble surface, almost, isn't it?
You already know. I mean, to the very left of your picture is the hot lap, which is beyond the red to the left-hand side, isn't it? Then you've got that painted red surface, which will always be slippery.
Yeah.
And then this part of the pit lane where we are now, looking at this engineer trying to repair the gantry, that does look like polished concrete, doesn't it?
Yeah, the drivers are going to feel awful about it, but
of course,
drivers of that skill can't stop a car. Then what chance have the rest of us got? They were powerless, as you said, to do anything about that, I would say. Of course, poor Lucas was the first one to have that situation, wasn't he?
Yes. Right, let's find out from a driver's eye perspective. One of those drivers that was skating across that concrete was Bruno Spengler.
point out with Bruno. Bruno, I mean, it's so slippery in there, and obviously you also had a little incident. Talk us through it. How can we imagine the situation?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was good that my engineer reminded me again in the pit lane that was super slippery, the pit lane, because when he said that, I slowed down a lot. When you come on the concrete with the slick tires and it's wet, you have no grip whatsoever, and it's impossible to stop the car, and that was my case. Unfortunately, I couldn't stop the car. As soon as I turned in, I felt I was like on ice, and I couldn't do anything, and I just saw that I was going to touch, unfortunately, my mechanics. I was super worried. You know, as a driver, when this happens, you feel really like shit. You hope that they are fine, and you are in the car. Your first reflex is not, you don't want to go, you don't want to leave the station, because you don't know if they are fine or not. And it was impressive because one was jumping and flying quite high, and you don't know, you're just in the car and you have no info. And quite quickly my team told me that they were okay, and then they came to me here on the grid and they said to me that they were all fine. So a bit of luck, but it's a bad feeling as a driver. I don't like it. I bet it's a bad feeling, and for I'm really sorry to them, because it's shit, yeah.
But just for us as viewers to understand, I mean, how fast were you, like, how fast are you in the pit lane? And when you lose control over the car, what speed are we talking about? Like 5 km/h or?
In the pit lane, the pit speed limit is 60, and I lifted quite early. So I think when I started to lock the wheels, I was maybe at 20 or 15. It's difficult to say, between 10 and 15 kph. And then it just doesn't stop at all. It even accelerates when you lock the wheels on this concrete, wet concrete. So, yeah, there's nothing you can do.
All right, thank you so much, Bruno. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Apologies for Bruno's colourful language, but you can see there as a racing driver, Chris, just how affected he is when something like that happens. And of course, you do get affected, and as he quite rightly said, you know, actually, our only thoughts are with the drivers, not interested in going back out to do the race. Interested in the engineers that we've hit. Not the blooming race.
The racing drivers, you know, this is what they do for a living, and there's a certain element of risk in racing a car fast. That's part of the attraction of it.
Yes.
And it's accepted. You're going to drive a racing car quickly around a circuit. As a driver, you know you put yourself at risk. The people that don't go for that are the people in the pits, the engineers, the crew. But it's still, you know, it can be a dangerous environment in a pit lane. You and I have walked up and down many pit lanes during races, and you've got to watch your back. But something like that is very difficult indeed. So the best thing for that interview, Dave, was to hear from Bruno that his 3 crew were all okay. So that was good news on that part, and the ambulances have now been cleared as well.
So the clock continues to count down. You could actually see, and you can see from this shot how everything is beginning to dry out now. It really doesn't take long here, because the actual, you know, the temperature has been so strong anyway.
And it's quite a breeze now as well, isn't it?
Yes, that's increased a bit as well. So, yeah, let's take a look at the summary of everything so far then, as the cars were released then and the lights went out. It was Lucas Auer who was being pressured by Pascal Wehrlein. Jamie Green was trying to get on the inside of Timo Glock, and Gary Paffett around the outside of Edo Mortara, who in turn was trying to get the better of Paul di Resta, but it wasn't to be. Nico Müller touched ever so slightly the car of Timo Glock. That sent him into a full 360. A good recovery from Timo, but of course he was right at the back of the pack at that point. And then the weather looked like it was going to turn, and it did turn. So Timo Glock and Mike Rockenfeller were battling as the raindrops continued to fall. So side by side, but Timo did get the better, and up the inside of Timo Glock came Joel Eriksson as the rain became even heavier. And Pascal Wehrlein was able to get to the inside of Lucas Auer, and that was a change for the race lead at that point. And Wehrlein then straight up the inside, and you could see the rain really falling on the windscreen of the Pascal Wehrlein car, who really had to tiptoe through that turn 1. Now, this was the first of the pit lane incidents when Lucas Auer came in, tried to turn on the polished concrete, and there, as you can see, unfortunately hit one of those marshals, but we are told that they are all okay. It was even more dramatic for Eduardo Mortara, who took out the entire gantry, and then Bruno Spengler also taking out an engineer and a gantry. But as I say, I repeat, the information that we have is that all those that were caught up in those incidents are all perfectly okay. So that was a summary of kind of what happened in the race so far, Chris.
Yeah, so well, certainly the BMW crew and the three engineers three crew members that Bruno struck, definitely he's saying reported back okay, and as we say, the ambulances have now been cleared. Any more info we get, we'll let you know. It's one thing for the crew members to be involved with that, but for marshals, of course, they're all volunteers. We've got thanks for that. We've just been given some information that the marshals, some of them, we believe, have been taken for a medical checkup there in the medical centre, but there is nothing serious, we believed, injury-wise. So that's good news.
Thanks for that update, Chris. Really good to hear that. So, of course, all these circuits, and I mean the medical teams that are here, the marshalling teams that are here, you know what, you and I couldn't enjoy our sport if it wasn't for those people.
Totally, yeah, totally.
So we wish them well. The medical centre will check them over. And the spectators, see now, just a moment ago, they would have the brolly up to protect them from the rain. Now the brolly's up to protect them from the heat.
The brolly is an essential piece of equipment for the Hungarian.
Yes,
either way, it either keeps the sun off you or it keeps the rain off you, doesn't it? Don't get mild sort of okay days. It's pretty extreme here,
one
isn't it?
or the other, isn't it? Yeah, you're absolutely right. So there is the Paul de Resta car. Before we go back to that, let's find out what Lucas Auer's impressions of those events were.
Lucas, talk us through it. I mean, obviously it was extremely slippery and you lost the control over the car. There was nothing else you can do.
It was really strange. I had before already problems and I was so slow going in the pit. And I don't know what happened after, but I just went straight and now I'm waiting for information how the people are.
It's probably the worst thing that can ever happen in a pit lane.
Yeah, sure.
Very sorry about that. Thank you very much, Lucas, and back to you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, you see clearly affected by that. Lucas is a really genuinely lovely guy, a bubbly character, and yeah, he's quite upset about that. But as we say, we've received news that there is no serious injuries there, so that's great news. Hopefully that news gets relayed to Lukey as well, because otherwise that might be something that plays on his mind when we get back going again. Right, tyres are being changed. Wet tyres then being taken off Philip Eng's car. And are they going to be replaced with slick tyres? You'd imagine so. I mean, as it stands, yes, there are one or two dark skies in the background. If I look back across the other side of the circuit, over towards turn 7, 8, some dark skies there, but in every other direction, there are blue skies. So it's still a damp track, but we saw on a track which was probably much damper than this, wetter than this, drivers were still able to keep it on the road on the slick tyres. So if you start on wets, you're going to be much quicker to start with for the first few laps of the race. However, you are going to have to come in at some point quickly, I would say, to put slicks on. So it might be the better option to start on the slick tyres if you have that option available to you. And of course, there are still some drivers who've got to make their mandatory stop as well. So drivers now being kept informed, and it's a good sign that most of them are back in the cars now, isn't it? We just heard from Lucas Auer, but a lot of the drivers, René, Rast included, in the cars now, which might suggest we're going to get back underway in the not too distant future. There is Philip Eng, who is not one of the drivers in his car, actually still with his race helmet and balaclava off, and using this opportunity now to try and get some feedback on the situation with his car. Right, we can hear now from Jamie Green down on the track.
Jamie, everyone's pretty shaken up after the situation in the pit lane, obviously. How are you feeling, and how's your mind? What's going on in your mind? And I mean, you've got to get focused on the restarts in a bit, so what's going on in your mind? Talk us through it.
Yeah, I had no idea what had happened. I just saw the red flag, and then while I was waiting here now, I saw on the screen a replay of the 3 guys crashing into the pit station. So yeah, one of them looked very nasty, actually. Yeah, not nice to see that at all, obviously. Yeah, your thoughts go out to the scrutineers who were standing there. But I've been told by some of our guys in the team that these people are not like life-threateningly injured. So, you know, glad to hear that. But yeah, the pit entry, well, the pit lane where the stations are is concrete. So when it rains, it's like glass. So yeah, that obviously caught 3 drivers out.
And now, I mean, how are you getting focused, thinking about the restart is about to begin in a bit? I mean, it's always hard to be taken out of the middle of the race, right? And then now having to refocus?
Yeah, it's pretty confusing because obviously it's mega hot here. It's like 30 degrees, but it rains. And then the question is how quickly it's going to dry up. What tyres should we start on? You know, how long will it be until the race restarts? And what are the conditions? I still haven't done my mandatory pit stop, so I need to do a stop. And I don't know how they're going to handle it, how race control are going to handle it, because some people did a pit stop just before the red flag. So is that going to count as a mandatory stop or not? And which lap do they take the order from? Because if they go back a lap, then those guys haven't done pit stops. Yeah, quite confusing.
So that's going to be interesting. But looking at the sky, we're both not weather frogs, but I mean, it looks like it's going to stay more or less dry, right? What are your thoughts on that? Do you have information?
I thought that before the race, I thought that as well. I heard there were some risks of showers. We had some drizzle on Friday and during the race yesterday, but it's so hot that the rain or light rain has no effect. So when it was drizzling a bit, I thought, you know, it won't be heavy, and then suddenly it was heavy. So it's just a lottery. But looking that way, where the wind's coming from, it's blue sky. So.
But quite frankly, don't take me on this, but can you smell the rain? I think it's going to rain again.
No, I think that's it.
Right. Okay, Jamie. Best of luck. Thank you so much, and back to you.
Well, Jamie says no. He makes a very interesting point, and that was the point that I was going to open up a dialogue between you and I over, because a number of the cars came into the pit lane, didn't they, to change to wet weather tyres, and the race gets stopped, which theoretically we would go back a lap then, wouldn't we, to get the order, pre-red flag. What happens to those that were in the pit lane or coming into the pit lane?
And moreover, before the red flag, the safety car had been deployed.
Yes.
Already. So that's another confusing element, because the rule states you can pit behind the safety car, but it doesn't count as one of your mandatory stops. And of course, there can be some big winners and big losers in all of this, because Jamie Green, as he said, one of the drivers that hasn't made a pit stop yet. If he makes a pit stop early on in the restart, everybody's still going to be bunched together. He's going to drop, you know, to dead last. He hasn't had time to. He's not got time to stretch away from the pack now. You've got Jamie Green, Pascal Wehrlein, Gary Paffett, Nico Muller, drivers all there, Daniel Hagedeo as well, drivers all up there in the top 8 who've yet to make their pit stop. So they're waiting for clarification. We've had notice on the screen then that the race time is now going to be 28 minutes plus 1 lap. So it's going to be reduced, but the clock has stopped ticking now, because that was another element.
Yes.
How long is this restart going to be?
I'll refer you to what I said earlier, Timo Glock. So just keep that thought in the back of our mind. He could be a beneficiary of this. So medical helicopter, presumably that is the medical helicopter returning.
It's an opportunity, this, for some, isn't it? I mean, BMW struggled most of the weekend. This is what they needed, something to mix it up, something to give them a chance, to throw them a lifeline. So, as I said, there are going to be drivers that will finish today's race and go, oh, do you know what it might have been? I should have been on the podium today if it hadn't rained. And there'll be other drivers that go, do you know what, I'm pretty pleased with my 5th place finish, because I didn't expect to get anything out of this race today. Slick's going on. It's going to be the case, isn't it, surely?
I would have thought so.
As I made the point a few minutes ago, when it was really raining and really heavy, these drivers were still able to somehow, don't ask me how, keep the cars on the road. So they can cope with a bit of damp track for 3 or 4 minutes, I'm sure. That'll dry it really quickly once the cars start going round as well.
Yeah. You can see the pit crews, look, and various other crews furiously. What they're trying to do is get rid of the excess water that's on that concrete part of the pit lane, which, as we know, to our cost, is as slippery as it can be. And that standing water they're trying to get rid of, because we certainly don't want to see a repeat of the 3 incidents that we saw involving Lucas Auer and Bruno Spengler.
The cars and the tyres are going to mop up the surface water on the track, but that
not so here.
Not in the pit lane. No. So they've got to get rid of what they can there, because there was some damage to the front of Lucas Auer's Mercedes as well, wasn't there? But it hopefully seems to have been cosmetic, because they're not frantically working away at the front of the car, are they?
No,
so
they're not.
Damage to anything underneath the skin of that. And as you made the point yesterday, Dave, with less aerodynamic gizmos and winglets and so forth on the cars this year,
they're less vulnerable, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, well, we know it's going to be 28 minutes plus 1 lap. We don't exactly know when the restart is going to come. But what we do know, and now, you know, as you look at that track from that particular camera angle, you can see that, you know, the track is drying out second by second. So Lucas Auer then, obviously affected by the incidents that happened, as to Edo Mortara and Bruno Spengler as well.
What we don't know is when the restart is going to happen,
No.
only how long it will be. And I had suspected we were getting close because drivers were sat in cars, some of them getting back in cars. But we heard from Jamie Green, we've heard from Lucas Auer, who was clearly affected by that incident, and neither of them look anywhere near ready to get into cars, do they?
No. I thought the cue might be, we saw the medical helicopter returning, because of course, like a number of international racing series, they won't, despite the fact we've got a you know, really very well equipped and well staffed medical centre here. You know, it's one of the mandatory rules, isn't it, that the helicopter has to be available, and clearly we wouldn't restart the race without the helicopter being here.
There's some patches in that pit lane, bone dry.
Bone dry.
Absolutely bone dry. And I'm not even sure why, because they're not covered, are they?
No.
Those areas. And we saw a shot of the back of the grid where we pretty much at the front of the grid on the start line, just a little bit in advance of that, where it's still damp. But the back of the grid, there are definitely some dry patches on the track already. And you can see on the start-finish straight, actually, Dave, just in front of us.
Yeah.
Just about 50 metres from the first cars on the grid, dry patches forming already.
Well, I made the point that, you know, you can almost actually see the track drying from our commentary position, can't you?
Just
You know,
wait for
second by
some steam
second.
to come off it almost, aren't you? Yeah.
So Philip Eng then, the balaclava going back on. So as soon as we have any information as to when the race will restart, we know the duration, we know it's going to be 28 minutes plus 1 lap, but there's also a very muddled order, and well, the race is going to be resumed at 14:20,
Right.
so 9 minutes from now, or 8.5 minutes from now.
That's probably part of the delay as well, in terms of, right, what's the starting order? Where do we need to put the cars? We need to get this agreed, and we need to then relay that to the teams. But that message is coming through. Drivers getting helmets on, cars being pushed into position. So they obviously got a clear determination of how they're going to grid this back up now for the restart. Look at that. It's almost bone dry now, up towards turn 1. So, yeah, 8 minutes away from the restart.
That is absolutely amazing, isn't it? How that track has just dried so quickly following that deluge of rain. For what was only a few minutes, to be honest, but what a catastrophic effect that had in terms of this DTM race. Yeah, you can see the Edo Mortara car being pushed there ahead of the Paul di Resta car that was in the pit lane. Now, it'll be very interesting to see what the what race control have decided, because I tend to agree with you, Chris. I think they're going to have to go a lap back to get what was a genuine order in terms of where cars were and all the rest of it. And presumably the race is going to restart behind the safety car, then it will go into an Indy-style restart, won't it? And then we'll be back to racing. But a number of drivers will not have had what is effectively a mandatory pit stop. There is the René Rast car. And it's a bit of a queue and a bit of a jumble down there in the pit lane, isn't it?
They're going to start some from the pit lane, because Lucas Auer, Edo Mortara, drivers like that were in the pits and hadn't completed their pit stop when the race was stopped. No Indianapolis-type restart, safety car. So, yeah, you could... They're all going to be arguing about this, aren't they? But you could argue that Lucas is shown as 17th out of 18 at the moment. But reality-wise, he would have lost a lot more time, because they were still trying to sort the car out, reverse it back in position.
Yes.
He hadn't left the pits. And if he's at the back of the queue now, he's at the back of the queue, but he's right on the tail of the race-leading pack. He's no longer half a lap behind.
Which he would have been, yes, he would have been, as you say, a significant half a lap, probably, if not more. So, it's yeah, a difficult one for the stewarding team. Glad I'm not sitting up there. Glad I'm sitting here, truthfully. Well, let's hear from the boss of Mercedes-Benz DTM, Uli Fritz, now.
So we all managed, I think, to let it sink in a little bit what happened here. Do you have any information about how the guys are doing?
No, I think it looks like our mechanics at least They have had luck a bit. It looks like they had a few hits, but nothing broken, as far as I know. I think, yeah, the Marshal that was hit has the worst injuries, but I cannot comment on what exactly he has. There was a message that he has heavy injuries, but it's nothing which is bringing his life into danger. So it looks a bit like we could have been lucky, but yeah, that's obviously pictures nobody want to see.
We spoke to Lukas Auer, and he was very shaken up. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult for him to get into the race again, to get his mind reset, right?
Yeah, I think that is secondary at the moment. I think now our thoughts are with the guys that have been injured, and we hope that they get well soon and that they have a good treatment in the hospitals and whatever. And everything else, I think, is not in the focus at the moment.
Thank you so much, Uli Fritz. Back to you.
Well, Uli probably saying exactly what we're thinking, actually.
Yeah, well said that, wasn't it?
Yes, very much so. He, the team principal from Mercedes-Benz, and Uli Fritz, of course, echoing all our thoughts that our thoughts are with those that have been injured. So no Indianapolis restart, behind the safety car, and that is Lukas Auer. Everyone says, and I can remember having a huge argument with a former co-commentator about things that happen that affect you, and his argument was, well, you're a professional racing driver, you've got to let everything else go to the wayside. You cannot do that, we're human beings. And, you know, Lukas is clearly very upset, isn't he?
Yeah, and hopefully not so much now, because when René spoke to him, he wasn't sure how badly people were injured, but transpires that the one Marshall seems to have some heavy injuries.
Yes.
Most people have got away with that, so that might lighten his soul a little bit. But no, completely, as I said, you know, you putting yourself at risk is one thing, but when other people who are not meant to be put at risk, as a result, not of your fault, but you were in the car as it hit them, that's going to affect anybody. Absolutely. So cars being pushed back in position, teams off the grid now, making their way back down towards the garages. They've all had time to repair any broken rigs in the pit lane. And what we are going to get is a frenetic 28-minute plus one lap race now, and with no idea at all who's going to win this one. It could be anybody, couldn't it? We'll find out, first of all, where they're all going to be gridded up and what the positions are going to be for everybody.
Dare I say it, I also think that whatever the result may be on track, there might be some protests afterwards as well.
Like you said, the stewards, it's so difficult, isn't it? It's such an unusual circumstance for that to happen in that order. Very difficult. And they have no chance of pleasing everybody, have they? Absolutely none.
No. It's a hard enough job anyway, isn't it? Well, the track is, well, Chris, it's jolly near bone dry now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's taken, what, 10 minutes to dry up, really, hasn't it? You would know, if you just tuned in, you were like, it rained? When? Yesterday? No, it rained about 20 minutes ago, and it's already virtually dry, but the pit lane is the problem, isn't it? That's.
Now, we saw this safety car reversing through the grid, didn't we? And presumably that is to go back to wherever the stewarding team have decided that is going to where they take the order from. So the cars are released from the pit lane now. They'll catch up with the rest of the cars that have gone off, won't they?
Yes, and they'll at least be on the back of the train. Oh, there's some... Oh, no, I thought there was some gesticulation going on there, but I think Gary, he's just put his gloves on.
Oh, right.
It seems.
Okay, yes, you're right.
I thought there was a panic with the car then, but no, I think he's still gloving up at the moment, getting himself sorted out. But is he being held there on the grid? Yeah, he is.
So, I can only deduce from this, Chris.
Well, those are the front runners, aren't
well,
they?
that is where the order is.
As of the screen. So,
Wehrlein, Paffett. Not Mortara, though.
No, because he was in the pits, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, we think.
But then, if they're going to go a further lap back... Oh.
I don't know.
Can be so many permutations, can't there?
Completely. And... So off the screen, it was Wehrlein, Paffett, Mortara third, Hockenheim fourth, Di Resta fifth, Rast sixth, Muller seventh, Green eighth, Duval and Frins ninth and 10th. So that's Mortara behind, though, isn't it? Or is it? No, that's Winkadea.
That's Winkadea, yeah.
So you're right, Mortara even though he's shown third on the screen because he was in the pits at the time. He's going to be at the back of the train somewhere.
Now this is where the juggle up is going to be, I think.
So it's Philipp Eng making his way up to the grid. Lucas Auer, who on the screen is 17th of 18. Yeah, that's where he's going to be, isn't it? At the back with Bruno Spengler of Farfus. And there's
Mortara and then De Resta as well.
Who's shown 5th on the screen, but the screen obviously just records them as they cross the line, not where they were when the red flag came out. So De Resta at the back. Yesterday's winner, Mortara at the back pretty much as well. I suppose good news for Farfus. They've all clearly been able to change back to the slick tyres already with the regulations. So at least, you know, yes, he's made 2 pit stops, but at least he's not miles behind like he was before.
No.
And others have still got to make their pit stops now as well, haven't they? Fairline, Paffett, Hunkerdaya, Muller, Green, all of them have to make their mandatory pit stop. The screen now sorts itself out once they go off onto the formation lap. So it's Pascal Wehrlein, Gary Paffett, Hunkerdaya 3rd, Muller 4th, Green 5th, Eng in 6th, Bittman in 7th, then Glock in 8th place, Ericsson 9th. He seemed to love those wet conditions on slick tyres. He was flying, wasn't he?
He was.
Joel Ericsson comparatively. And Rocky 10th, Spengler 11th, Auer 12th, Farfus 13th, Mortara 14th, De Resta 15th, Rast down in 16th, Duval 17th, Frins 18th. That's completely jumbled it up, hasn't it?
Yes.
Put them into a big stirring pot and just spat them out in a completely different order, the circumstances of that red flag.
So given given those that have pitted, Chris, Philipp Eng, Marco Wittmann, Timo Glock, yeah, we agree on that. In fact, the only ones that haven't had a mandatory pit stop, as you just indicated, Wehrlein, Paffett, Hunkerdaya, Muller, Green. Just trying to work out where the order is really going to be, and you know, forgive me, I think that Timo Glock could come out of this.
What about Philipp Eng though? Because he's the first of the pit stop.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But given what we saw yesterday, I don't think Timo will find him too difficult to overtake. No. Forgive me.
And we know that Timo was capable of a top 3 on the grid.
Yes.
He just made a mistake on his flying lap, so we know he's quick today. Yeah, you're right. And so what they've done is restarted behind the safety car, because of course the safety car had been deployed before the red flags.
Yes.
Gone back to the situation we had just before the reds came out.
Is the safety car going to stay out for another lap and just gradually increase the speed to get the drivers up to speed with the track conditions as they are now, or is it going to come into the pit lane? I think it's coming in.
See any real need for it to stay out? Green flag has been shown on the screen.
Yeah. So okay, fine. So here we go, back to racing then, with 25.5 minutes on the clock left for this race. So Hunkerdaya on the inside of Gary Paffett then as they head down to turn 1. Pascal Wehrlein has just escaped up the road, hasn't he?
Absolutely. Jamie Green showing his nose.
Here comes Nico Muller.
Hunkerdaya's gone 2nd, Muller's gone 3rd, Paffett out wide, might lose another position to Jamie Green. He does. Green goes through as well, I think. So Gary caught out there on the way through turn 1, losing 3. Another position lost as well. He's lost one to Philipp Eng, comes through in the BMW.
And it's Marco Wittmann, isn't it? And Timo Glock behind him. So Pascal Wehrlein up the road.
Still way on the curves, isn't it? You're something careful there. Top 2 of the championship together now. Gary Paffett in the turquoise Mercedes and Timo Glock in the yellow BMW. And Joel Ericsson goes up the inside of everybody here. As out wide goes Gary Paffett, who's really struggling with the tyres, Dave.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And Mike Rockenfeller, look, is right on the back of Timo Glock now. Joel Ericsson, you were saying that he was doing really, really well in those wet conditions. Well, he's doing okay now, isn't he? So Joel Ericsson ahead of Timo Glock. And then Augusto Farfus there. The big loser in that restart is Gary Paffett, isn't it? Here comes Lucas Auer, of course, trying to make his way back up the order now following the elongated stop, and the cars are almost 3 abreast with Edo Mortara in between René Rast and Gary Paffett, and he goes through, and so does René Rast, and Rast has gone round!
Has Paffett got wet tyres on? Is that what it is?
Possibly.
Going backwards, isn't it? Just trying to look at the colour of the trim on the wheel. I think possibility, because he's just going backwards, isn't he?
Yeah.
although he was shown as not having made a stop, wasn't he? But they all were able to change tyres for the restart. That would be very odd if that happened. Well, whatever the problem, he's got a problem because he's sliding backwards all the time.
He's not dived into the pit lane, so...
Most odd, isn't it? Wehrlein was 1.2 seconds clear at the end of that first lap. It was probably most of that clear by the time they got to turn one. It was a great restart, wasn't it? He nailed it. Here's Paffett then.
Come on, let's have a look at those. Do you know, I think they are.
So he got a different weather forecast to us then, because yeah, he's massively struck. He's gone from 2nd to 17th in the space of a lap. Pascal Wehrlein in first place, but yeah, Daniel Hockenheim has just had the fastest first sector of anybody, hasn't he?
All of a sudden, Wehrlein, who was half a lap up the road, isn't.
No, less than half of that gap now, I would say he's got.
So here we can see now, perhaps with these pictures we can ascertain better what tyres. I think you're right. I think Paffett for sure is on wets, isn't he? Yeah, you can see the blue, can't you?
Yeah, the blue trim on the tyre. Interesting. But he's not too pleased about that at the moment after that first lap. And it shows, doesn't it, that you think, well, surely he's got loads of grip with a wet tyre and a dry track. No, they just don't work in those conditions. They completely overheat. So Wehrlein leads by a reduced amount from Danny Hockenheim as they come over the line. The gap now halved, 0.6 of a second. Muller in 3rd, Green in 4th. The top 4 yet to pit, so trying to stretch their legs. Then it's Philipp Eng, Marco Bittman 5th and 6th. Ericsson up to 7th place. Timo Glock 8th. Rockefeller in 9th and Spengler in 10th place. And Farfus, he's back up to 11th now, so this has worked out for him nicely.
And DRS has been re-enabled now. So Jamie Green almost on the inside of Nico Muller, 2 Audis together here.
Car 22, Lucas Auer, under investigation for a dangerous manoeuvre. Edo Motara, under investigation for a dangerous manoeuvre. Bruno Spengler, under investigation for a dangerous manoeuvre as Gary Paffett comes in.
Oh, there's broken bodywork on the front of the car as well, which has hampered the team. I mean, that was a very, very slow stop, wasn't it?
Yeah. The only surprise was he didn't come in at the end of the first lap, and having seen how badly it had all gone there, unless they were just hoping for a cloudburst suddenly. This is the top 2 of the championship coming together.
There's where the contact came, I think, between Timo and Gary. And that was that 3 abreast moment where Edo Mortara was between Rast and Rast, the back end of the car, stepping out, following that touch there from Gary Paffett. And around it went.
Top 6 finish puts Timo Glock back in the lead of the championship. He's 7 points behind Gary Paffett. 8 points available if you finish in the top 6. And David got the top 2 together.
Yes, with the DRS assist, Hockenheim up the inside of Pascal Wehrlein. Wehrlein tries to fight back. Now he's got the inside for this turn, but it very quickly becomes the outside for the next one. Oh. So 2 brand mates battling together here. Just looking, Chris. So Pascal Wehrlein then, who escaped up the road right at the restart. And Daniel Hockenheim gets past him now and tries to escape up the road.
Daniel Hockenheim has never won a DTM race.
No.
He's never been on the podium. Here's his chance. He's flying at the moment, though, isn't he? He's pulling away now from Pascal Wehrlein, and it's getting tight for 3rd and 4th. But remember, these 4 have still got to make their mandatory pit stops. Wehrlein, Hockenheim, Muller and Green have got to make a stop. The first of the pit stoppers is Philipp Eng in 5th place, who is just under 5 seconds behind the race leader.
Desperately trying to see as Hockenheim breaks away from Pascal Wehrlein now. Pascal Wehrlein got such a lead right at the restart, didn't he? But then his relative pace compared to Daniel Hockenheim was awful. Hockenheim was able to close the gap enormously. I'm just wondering what tyres Pascal is on.
Yeah.
Just wondering.
Although he was, well, he was a rocket ship for the first 2 laps, wasn't he?
Yes,
There's Joel Eriksson.
But in fairness, you know, he was able to break away, and he'd got the clear track ahead of him, hadn't he?
I think he's quick enough to be on.
Okay.
Slicks in 1:39. He's just gone through in 1:39.9. He's not flying at all, but there's Marco Bittman gaining a place at the inside of Philipp Eng to become the first of the pit stoppers now. And here is the championship frontrunner, second in the championship, Timo Glock in the yellow BMW onto the tail of his brand mate, Joel Eriksson now. Last year's runner-up in the FIA European Formula 3 Championship, the Rapid Swede. These are battling over 7th and 8th positions respectively. Just behind them, you've got Mike Rockenfeller closing up as well in the Audi.
So the order then, as we go on board with Daniel Juncadella. I tell you what, Joel Eriksson is just a joy to watch, isn't he? Whether we're seeing him from the camera or through the windscreen of Timo Glock's car. He really does absolutely give it everything.
Well, on the screen, no further action in the incident between Gary Paffett and René Rast. But the stewards of the meeting are, well, the incidents are going to be reported and looked at afterwards, involving Auer, Mortara and Spengler as well, but nothing at the moment. Under investigation, the incident between car 2 and 16 now, which is, of course, the top 2 in the championship, Gary Paffett and Timo Glock. So lots of paperwork to be shuffled at the end of this race.
You're not kidding.
Eriksson's not making life easy for Timo Glock, is he? Timo's itching to get past Luck, but no way through at the moment.
So the cars scream across the timing line. Juncadella, Wehrlein, then it's Muller, Green, Marco Bittman and Glock. Now on the inside of Joel Eriksson does go through. He's been waiting to be able to do that, and with the assistance of that rear wing has been able to get past Joel Eriksson now. The chase will be on to Marco Bittman and Philipp Eng, respectively. Philipp Eng being the next one in his target sights. Here comes Timo Glock then to the inside. Great to see that from on board. And from another angle, once again, Timo Glock going through on Joel Eriksson.
Neat tidy that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Race leader Juncadella last time round did a 1:38.4. Wehrlein in second did a 1:39.2, so 8/10 slower. And in third place, even slower, was Muller. So Juncadella was more than a second quicker on that lap than Muller. He's trying to get away now and build up an advantage because he's got to make this pit stop. So he's not so much racing the 3 cars behind him, he's racing those that have made their pit stop now. Of course, they haven't got to worry about the tyres going off because they haven't done that many laps on them, have they? Certainly not in dry conditions. No. So they can pick and choose when they make their stops, but I suspect there's going to be quite a few drivers coming in of the remaining 5 that have got to make their pit stops that will be doing that maybe on the last lap or 2 of the race.
I was going to say, as late as possible it'll be left, won't it? So Daniel Juncadella then, as you quite rightly say, absolutely flying into turn number 1 now. There is Pascal Wehrlein. There, Nico Muller. Jamie Green being caught by Marco Bittman ahead of Philipp Eng, who equally is being caught now by Timo Glock.
To give you an idea, we were timing it yesterday of over 40 seconds from pit in to pit out, so that's the sort of advantage you've got to try and build up. Actually, stationary time in these cars was ranging between 6 and 9 seconds yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes.
But it's the time you lose coming in and out of the pits that's the big factor.
So Timo Glock all over the back of Philipp Eng. So Philipp Eng, the Austrian driver of car number 25, then the DTM rookie, like Joel Eriksson, another rookie in the BMWs, now being chased by the hugely experienced Timo Glock, who is at the sharp end of the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Now, Timo has stopped, having been turned around right at the start of the race, you'll recall. Saw him in a cloud of tyre smoke, pirouetting. So
if he gets past Philipp Eng, he'll be 6th, and that'll be enough points to move into the championship lead. But then you've got the next 4 drivers ahead of him that have got to pit, so he's probably going to get past them as well.
Yeah.
So as you correctly predicted, Dave, a while ago, he's got a real chance of a victory, hasn't he? Definitely.
It hasn't come yet, has it? But we've got 14 minutes remaining now, and that's not somewhere where we often see an overtake, is it? But Timo's going to go around the outside of turn number 1 on Philipp Eng now, and if he can keep the momentum, he might swap to the inside, sure enough. But so here comes Glock on Eng then, and Philipp Eng certainly knows with the DRS open on Timo Glock's car, he's going to be utterly defenceless, isn't he? And sure enough, Timo Glock does go through.
Absolutely. So the 4 leading pit stoppers, BMWs.
What a turn of fortune, hey?
Didn't get the points yesterday. They might have 3 cars on the podium today at this rate. It's working out beautifully for them as Augusto Farfus look back in the game now, as circumstances definitely have favoured him because he'd made an early pit stop. They had to make another pit stop to go on wet tyres. But of course, with everybody bunched back up together, instead of being more than half a lap behind, he's got a chance of some points now, big chance of some points. So Farfus going well. A replay of this move, you can see the front of the car bouncing around there under DRS, going into that corner much quicker than normal. And his straight line speed increased when they opened the rear wing with the DRS. And it's a downhill run into turn 1 as well, so you've got to be very careful not to run wide, haven't you, on the exit?
So that was Timo Glock getting past Philipp Eng. There's Daniel Juncadella, who is leading the race, but bear in mind, Daniel Juncadella is yet to stop, as is Pascal Wehrlein, Nico Müller, and Jamie Green as well. Now Timo Glock has got past Eng. He's leaving him, isn't he? I mean, of the BMW drivers, he's the one that's shown the pace, isn't he, across the whole weekend, to be truthful.
Yeah, you're right. Going well, Timo. Makes his way out now of turn 14. Interesting to see what this lap time is like, because he's had somebody in front of him ever since the restart. Juncadella has been by far the quickest driver on the track, but Timo might be able to start matching his lap times now on this next lap. So 1:39.0 for Juncadella. He pulled away about another 3/10 from Wehrlein, who in turn was half a second quicker than Wehrlein. But he sensed they might be racing for the lower points positions, those drivers, with their pit stop still to come.
So on board with Mike Rockenfeller, who's actually running in P9 at the moment, but that's pre those 4 at the top of the chart stopping yet. Plenty of discussions going on the pit wall. There is Philipp Eng, Joel Eriksson, and there, the Mike Rockenfeller car. Taken me a long while to get used to the new livery on the Mike Rockenfeller car this year, to be fair, as watch Augusto Farfus, and there is Paul di Resta and Lucas Aranetto, Mortara, Robin Frins.
Lucas Auer probably fancied a victory today. He's 13th. However, it could have been even worse for him, couldn't it? With, in a sense, that the stoppage giving him a chance, at least of some points, which may have gone completely out of the window otherwise with that accident in the pit lane. So Juncadella leads Wehrlein by 2.8 seconds. A further 1.2 seconds back is Muller in 3rd. 6 seconds behind the race leader, Jamie Green in 4th. They've all still got to make a mandatory pit stop. Then it's Marco Bittman, who's the first of the pit stoppers, and he's 3.9, he was 3.9 seconds clear of Timo Glock. Suspect that might come down.
You might be right.
1:39.6 for Bittman, 1:39.4 for Glock, so he started to catch.
So the noise of the cars as they roar past our commentary position and into that turn 1, whereas they start to run downhill then through that sequence of turns 2 and 3, heading out towards the back of the circuit. So Augusto Farfus there, tucked in behind the Bruno Spengler car, and behind Bruno Spengler, behind Augusto Farfus rather, is the Paul di Resta Mercedes-Benz, of course, victorious yesterday, top step of the podium, as we said, without even the oddities that have been thrown into this race. You can never take the result of race 1 to give you a form guide for race number 2. That's one of the beauties of DTM, really. It's just totally unpredictable.
Race leader's just coming into turn 12. Gary Paffett's just started the lap. That's how far back he is after that extra pit stop and the slow lap on the wrong tyres at the start of the race. He's 1 minute and 12 seconds behind, 3/4 of a lap behind. So Gary desperately needs a safety car here, and even that is going to still make life work. Hard life for him. Sparks flying there from Rocky's front left corner as he thumped the curb.
He's pushing, isn't he? Right. In comes Junkadea.
It's going to plummet right down the order because relatively they're all still quite bunched together, aren't they?
Now, not many minutes ago, that pit lane was a watch, wasn't it?
Yeah. Nothing there now, is there? Completely dry.
Oh, and there was a problem at the rear. So that was not a quick time. Just when Daniel Junkadea really needed a quick one, it just wasn't going to happen, was it?
No. I would have thought, as long as you're still getting decent speed, which Danny was, he was flying, you'd have thought stay out as long as possible to stretch your legs before coming in. Rocky now right onto the tail of Ericsson, the 2013 champion, having a look at the inside of the 19-year-old Swede, who fends him off, digs his heels in here.
Not daunted by him, is he?
He's a proper racer, isn't he, Joel Ericsson?
Oh, what a start.
He's already had a 4th place finish, hasn't he, in his first couple of weekends of the DTM Championship. BMW Junior that backed him through his single-seater career as well. A couple of years in the Formula 3 Championship. Joel going well here, but a queue starting to form up behind him. Don't look in the mirrors, Joel, because it's going to be busy for you for the next 7 3/4 minutes.
Yes, despite how good he is, he's a bit cork-like at the moment, isn't he? In terms of the cars queued up behind him, but got to find a way past, and Joel doing a very, very good job. So Wehrlein nominally now the leader of the race. We've got 7.5 minutes left as Mike is showing his face to the rear view mirrors of Joel Ericsson and then takes to the curb as Joel, I think, made just a slight error there, didn't he, and ran wide, and that was just what Mike Rockefeller was hoping to provoke. And sure enough, with 1 turn left to do, Mike Rockefeller finds himself ahead of the BMW of Joel Ericsson. Then you've got Bruno Spengler, Augusto Farfus, Paul di Resta, and then Lucas Auer all locked up behind as well.
Wehrlein in the pits as well, there to the right of the picture. So Pascal Wehrlein comes in, Muller picks up the lead, Green will move up to 2nd. They've still got to make their stops. That looked like a pretty decent stop. We didn't get the time on it, but it looked okay as Augusto Farfus has a look at the inside of Bruno Spengler on the way into the first turn. Di Resta trying to come all over him in the white Mercedes as well. And Mike Rockefeller will be hoping upon hope that Joel Ericsson can keep this queue behind him, because that's going to give him some breathing space, isn't it?
Here comes Paul di Resta, look around the outside almost of Augusto Farfus, but wasn't quite able to make it stick. But Paul di Resta has clearly got the pace, hasn't he? But he's got to find a way past those 2 BMWs ahead of him. And this is Lucas Auer looking at the back end of the Paul di Resta car. There is Bruno Spengler and Augusto Farfus. Augusto Farfus showing good pace at the moment. Mike Rockefeller has escaped up the road, having been released almost from that trapped BMW trio. So Augusto Farfus then bouncing across the curb, sparks flying off the car, and of course, whilst all this is going on, the clock continues to count down. We're into under 6 minutes plus 1 lap, Chris.
Marco Bittman is 4th, the leading driver that's made a pit stop. Well, he's going to be higher than 4th now, isn't he, with Wehrlein having gone in. But the key thing is that, yes, he's been caught by Timo Glock, but not by much.
Not quick enough, is it?
1 or 2 tenths of a second per lap. He's still well clear of him. So Bittman on with a chance here as Augusto Farfus virtually pushes Bruno Spengler through turn 13.
Get the hurry up, chap. Come on.
I think it's fair to say he's within a second of the car ahead, so he might get some DRS here, but the car behind him's got to get DRS as well, which is Paul di Resta.
Very nearly within the boot, let alone a second, wasn't he?
Here we go. Hold on to your hats. Attack and defend at the same time.
Not close enough, is he?
Di Resta might be for a brave banzai move around the outside. No.
Get underneath him now, won't he, and hang it around the outside of turn number 2, which will give him the inside for turn number 3. I tell you what, Di Resta could do this here, you know. Depends how much momentum he's able to carry. Augusto is going to run him out just a little bit wide, but no, he's done it.
Good move.
That was a great overtake, Chris.
Really good, really good. Dug his heels in, didn't he? I'm not going to get you at turn 2. I know I can get you at turn 3. Farfus, a warning for forcing another car off the track. Okay, so it's all kicking off here with 4.5 minutes plus 1 lap to go.
Yeah, you're right, it is, isn't it?
So Muller and Green, the top 2, the only 2 yet to make a pit stop, and they're only, well, the leader is only 5 seconds clear of the leading pit stop of Bittman, so they've got no chance of a podium here. Maybe scrape some points potentially, and that's still going to be difficult, isn't it? Junkadea came out in 16th, Wehrlein came out in 17th place, so the only one you're guaranteed to get ahead of at the moment is Poor old Gary Paffett at the back of the field, a long way down. And Muller leads, and in comes Jamie Green from second place.
Fast lane is still damped by the pace drive.
So fast lane still damp, but the pit is
How much
dry.
time remaining?
3 minutes 40.
In answer to your question, Jamie, not long enough, I don't think, for you to get anything out of this.
So 7.7 second stop for Jamie Green then. There's
behind the other two that have stopped, isn't he?
Yeah, Jungadea and Wehrlein. 3 minutes left remaining. There is Nico Muller, who is, well, he's leading the race, but not really, because he's still got to stop, whereas Marco Bittman has stopped, and Marco Bittman is...
He's going to pick up the lead of the race sooner or later. It's going to be sooner. Still a big gap back to Timo Glock, but I don't think Timo will be too disgruntled with second place, given how the weekend's gone so far, will he?
To be fair. So Marco Bittman then, two-time champion in DTM, of course, driving the BMW. He is the leader. So heading up towards the second from last turn.
And Philip Eng's on for a podium. As
Yes.
Muller comes in. Muller comes into the pits.
Right, so that's it. We get back to the correct race order now, don't we?
Pit lane. Speed pit lane. Remember brake balance. You are by far the quickest car on track. We have 3 laps to go. You will come out behind the whole pack. Bring in the tires maximum possible. 3 laps to go.
He's going to be fighting an uphill battle to try and get anything from this, isn't he?
You're right.
Good stop,
Good stop,
to
yes.
against Wehrlein and Jungadea.
Still going to be behind them though, isn't he?
Copy.
Right, so everybody's now made their mandatory pit stop. Marco Bittman picks up the lead. Timo Glock second. Philip Eng on for his second podium in 3 weekends of DTM. Not bad. Not a bad return at all for the former Porsche Super Cup champion.
Paul Di Resta continues his overtaking quest, getting past Bruno Spengler now, and chasing down that Joel Eriksson car now, which is ahead. So Paul Di Resta then, who of course victorious in the race yesterday.
So this is going to be for 5th and 6th places.
Yes.
So, yeah. Still not bad, not bad.
He's prepared to put it around the outside, you know, isn't he?
Nice move.
Yeah. Done a couple of really good overtakes as Paul this afternoon.
Yeah, given how wrong this race potentially could go badly wrong for you with everything that happened and the race stoppage and the red flag, and Paul Di Resta being on the restart pretty much at the back of the field, I think we're pretty satisfied if we can be in the top 6 at the end of the race, having had that win yesterday. It's a good points haul, isn't it, for the weekend?
Yes. So Marco Bittman then crosses the timing line, 5.6 seconds ahead of Timo Glock. So he'll have this lap plus 1 more. And Philip Eng then. Rocky is reeling him in, Chris.
And here we go, Di Resta on the attack again. DRS straight past Joel Eriksson. No need to be brave around the outside this time. He's just got to slow the car down and keep it on the track, which he does. And Di Resta now moving up into the top 5 as the leading Mercedes. Still, Eriksson on for a good top 6 finish here. It's Bittman, Glock, Eng, the top 3. Rockenfeller from near the back of the field in 4th place. Di Resta up to 5th with that move. Eriksson in 6th place. Spengler in 7th. Farfus, Auer and Matara all in the points.
Live championship prediction on the right-hand side of your screen. Then if it finishes and stays the way it is at the moment, it will be Glock on 90, Paffett 79, Di Resta 65. So Philip Eng then being chased hard by the Audi driver Mike Rockenfeller. Mike's best finish P2, of course, in the second race at that legendary race, the opening of the season at Hockenheim, the race 2 of that particular weekend, and pushing hard now for a potential podium here. He's got the Philip Eng car ahead of him. Philip Eng in his rookie year of DTM in the BMW. As Chris has mentioned, Super Cup, Carrera Cup champion, very, very quick and very accomplished racing driver. So Marco Bittman now crosses the timing line for what will be the last lap in this, well, drama-filled DTM race. So it's now or never for Mike Rockenfeller then. He's got 1 lap left in which to do it. He has got DRS available. The window on the wing is open as he tries to reel in Philipp Eng. He looks at the inside. He's not quite close enough. He's going to have to try and do it around the rest of this track, and that's going to be jolly difficult, Chris.
Yeah, that was the best chance for sure, but Mike will not give this one up. The battle for the final place on the podium. Aaron a little bit deep into the corner, leaving the door open into turn 2 was Philipp Eng there, out through turn 2, down the hill into the right-hander at turn 3, which leads onto the back straight and the uphill climb towards turn 4, but Eng now getting back away from Rocky. Yesterday, Dave, there wasn't a single BMW in the top 10. Today, they're all in the top 10. First, second, third, 6th, 7th and 8th. The rain dance worked.
It did. So Rocky continuing to chase Philipp Eng, but as Chris has indicated, his best chance really has probably gone now. So unless Philipp makes a mistake, and Philipp tends not to make mistakes, it might be that Mike is going to have to settle for a P4 position and not be on the podium. And it'll be an all BMW affair up there here at the Hungaroring for this race 2, with Marco Bittman leading comfortably from Timo Glock, who actually is maxing his points haul with that P2, and Philipp Eng then. But this is Marco Bittman, the 2-time champion, about to cross the timing line. He's had a P2 this year, and now he takes the first win of the season. Marco Bittman wins his first DTM race of the season, locks the tyres up. Timo Glock takes P2. And then around the final turn for his second podium in his rookie year for Philipp Eng. And then it's Mike Rockenfeller P4. Paul di Resta, a good recovery to take P5 to be fair. Another good finish from Joel Eriksson taking P6. Then it's Bruno Spengler, Augusto Farfus, Lucas Au and Edo Mortara rounding out the top 10.
Wow, how about that? That's had everything, that race, didn't it? It had weather affecting it, drama of a kind that nobody wanted to see, but happily no overly serious life-threatening injuries from that, as we've heard.
Where I lost front end potential, and then I had this massive pickup for a couple of laps, and the front left, rear left just dropped initially, was sliding a bit. So
well, there were the 7 reasons why Timo Glock was not able to reel in Marco Bittman.
It was a big gap to try and
close,
though, wasn't it?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
An eighth to second's all right in anyone's book. And Mike Rockenfeller, of course, went from 16th to 4th, so you should be very pleased with that. It's Marco Bittman's 10th victory in DTM in his 80th race, so he wins 1 in 8 races. That's a pretty good ratio, isn't it?
Jolly well is. Yes, it jolly well is, and he'll be pleased to have taken his first for this season. Well, what a turnaround, Chris. And, you know, to reinforce what I've always said about, you know, you can't predict from race 1 what's going to happen in race 2, but you'd have never said 3 BMWs on the podium, would you?
No.
Never.
That's why we love sport. That's why we love motorsport and the DTM.
And here's the translation from Chris Hartley.
Right, so the gist is, great job, guys. The car was great, but we had some luck there. It was, and the main thing that he said was that his thoughts were going to anybody that got injured in the pit lane. He hopes that they're okay. Those are the bits that I could pick up with.
Well done.
Broken German.
Did better than I would have done.
So terrific drive. Marco was the one that pitted just before it all kicked off, wasn't he? So that, you know, timing, yeah, a bit of luck, but you know, you got to ride your luck.
You've got to take it sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah, you got to put yourself in that position. And yeah, that's why we love the sport, isn't it? Because predictable, it is not. Anything can happen. And so, 6 races, 5 different winners this season, Dave. There's a pattern to this, isn't there?
Yes. Absolutely right, there is.
And I'm guessing you wouldn't like to put any money at all on who might win this championship this year, because we're still none the wiser.
No, you're right.
Which is great.
Well, here we have confirmation of the result then. Marco Bittman taking the win. From Timo Glock, P2. Then it's Philipp Eng. Mike Rockefeller pulled a Resta. Then it was Joel Eriksson, Bruno Spengler, Augusto Farfus, Lucas Aert and Eduardo Mortara rounding out the top 10, and the rest of the order you can see on the screen.
Might be a debrief out of Mercedes with Gary Paffett as to what went wrong there. Because that was a chance of good points for Gary in that race, wasn't it?
I can't, and you made the point, you know, why he left it for a little while before he came back in to get off those wet weather tyres. But then when others had changed them,
yeah,
you know, was that just a gamble that we might get some more, perhaps?
Don't know. We'll find out in due course, but others have changed, haven't they? Certainly we know that Farfus, as the race was red flag, was on wet tyres, wasn't he? Because he'd stopped for his mandatory early stop, then he came in again and put the wet tyres on, so he was able to restart with slicks. So don't know, whether there was some confusion about what they could do rather than they were just taking a gamble, who knows, but it was very unfortunate for Gary, who's lost an opportunity for some good points today. Marco Bittman then, the race winner by 5.8 seconds from Timo Glock. Germans first and second, the Austrian driver Philipp Eng in third place.
And of course, for Marco Bittman, heading off to his home race next. He lives just down the road from the Norris Ring in Fürth, I think it is, just outside Nuremberg. So
there's always spectacular racing there, isn't there?
Oh,
a street circuit, but goodness me, there's usually plenty of overtaking and a fair bit of drama as well.
Yes, it is definitely always one of the highlights in the DTM calendar, and so well supported. I mean, here at Hungaroring, an awfully big crowd, and good to see. But it's eclipsed by the amount of people that we'll see at the Norris Ring in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, a huge event, isn't it? The whole city turned into a venue, the history steeping around the place as well.
Yeah.
And a bit like Hungary usually, isn't it, in terms of the weather? It's either searing hot or very, very wet. There's not much in between.
Right, yes, there's no middle ground, is there?
Take a brolly, Dave.
Yeah.
Well, that was a get out of jail card for BMW, wasn't it? But
wasn't it just? What a turnaround.
Never give up, eh? Never give up.
Yes.
Podium lockout, unbelievable.
Nicole there working so hard to please come on, Marco.
We need you at the podium. We're running a bit late, you may have noticed, due to the stoppage in the middle of the race.
Well, in the Drivers' Championship, Timo Glock now on 90 points, Gary on 79, Paul di Resta 67, then Lucas Aert, then it's Marco Bittman, Edo Mortara, Philipp Eng, Wehrlein, Rocky, and Bruno Spengler is into the top 10 in the points on 29 points. And you know, when you look at that, you still couldn't, whilst Timo Glock has got a nice points advantage at the moment, still wouldn't bet on where the championship is going to go come the end of the season, and our second visit, of course, to Hockenheim in the middle of October.
The overall winner of the weekend, though, has been Paul di Resta, hasn't he, with the win and the fifth place today in terms of points picked up from the weekend. He's had a good one. Great drive, wasn't it, from the back of the field in that last 28 minutes to come through.
Absolutely brilliant overtakes.
Yeah, round the outside.
That was just
three times, wasn't it? Yeah.
So certainly twice, if not three times. Right, Marco Bittman being asked out onto the podium. Timo Glock now. And for the second time this season in his rookie year, Philipp Eng is up on the podium. So national anthem plays out. So the anthem plays out then, and on the top step of the podium it is Marco Bittman. Step 2 is Timo Glock. Step 3, Philipp Eng. And trophies being presented, and it's to Norbert Kiss, of course, the truck racing European champion, making the trophy presentation to Marco Bittman. Mr. Arpad Vidoven, the Minister of State for Public Administration, making the manufacturers and teams trophy presentation. I love those trophies, Chris, I must say.
Cool, aren't they?
Zsolt Goulet, the President and CEO of Hungaroring, makes the second place trophy presentation to Timo Glock, who is the leader in the Drivers' Championship as we head towards Norris Ring. And Zoltan Kamara, the Olympic medalist for canoeing, making the third place trophy presentation to Philipp Eng, his second third place of the season. So the drivers will pose for the photographs. And then once they're done and dusted, drivers choosing, of course, not to spray any champagne following the dramas that occurred earlier on.
Yeah, nice touch there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what I was saying about, you know, actually even robotic-like racing drivers are humans as well, aren't they?
So there, the moment that Marco Bittman lifted the winner's trophy the first time this season. And, well, that will go down as an unexpected victory for him, I think. And he'll take it every day of the week.
Jens Marquardt will be enjoying a cup of tea, that's for sure. So too, probably, Timo Glock.
Right, so Timo, this is what I call a turn of fortune. Absolutely unbelievable. You're starting in P8 and now you're up on the podium on second place. It was a crazy race, but you've got to be very happy about the P2.
Yeah, for sure, I'm happy, but I think the most important thing is that the people who got injured today are okay, and I just hope there is not a heavy injury. So that's the most important thing. It's not nice to see, because these people are here, big motorsport fans doing it like, let's say for free. They don't get much for it. They're just big fans, and it's very unfortunate that they got injured today. But sometimes that happens. I think we need to learn out of that. The DTM or for F1 or whatever, every series has to learn out of that mistake today, and need to learn and do things better, safer, whatever. And yeah, but at the end, you know, I'm happy that we could recover well after the spun around from Nico Müller in lap 1. Race stopped, so it was pretty emotional up and down, and I just kept calm. I said, okay, we can't change it anymore. We just need to make the best out of it. And at the end, to finish on the podium is just, it's good for the points for sure.
And you're also leading the championship again.
I have no idea.
You are.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw Gary being unfortunate on the wet tires. For sure, that's not how you want to regain the championship. I think he had like no chance to really fight for it. So, but you know, it swings around up and down, and still the two old men are leading. So.
All right, so congratulations. Back to you.
There is no way Timo Glock was saying, "Oh, I'm going to keep calm now," because you just know that he wouldn't. You know, he's too much of a racer, isn't he? After that turnaround, there's no way he was going to go, "Oh, well, I'll be calm and we'll take what we can out of this."
No.
Yeah, no way.
I like that though. Like the old dog, yeah. Two old men at top 2 in the championship.
Okay, another one celebrating his second podium of the season, his rookie season. It's Philipp Eng.
That's absolutely amazing. It's your second podium as a rookie, and now a third place starting from P15. If I would have asked you this morning, I bet you wouldn't have said you would have made it on the podium.
Yeah, that's correct. But first of all, I think it's important that nothing worse happened in this accident in the pit lane. My race was, it was hectic, it was chaotic. Driving those beasts on slicks is not the funniest thing you do on a Sunday afternoon, but it was good fun, and the team did amazing to stop me in the right lap. Then we were restarting, and I didn't know how many people in front of me were still pitting, so I said, okay, you probably finish P4, P5, but then I saw the 3 on my dash, and it's super cool.
Philip, you know what? Rocky was really pushing hard. And the last lap, I was getting nervous. What about you?
Yeah, my heart rate rised. I mean, yeah, his trick box is probably still a little bit deeper than mine because he is older and more experienced. But I could manage to defend. I think I had good pace, and it was never really an issue.
You did a fab job. Thank you so much, Philip. Back to you.
Did do a fab job, and he's proved the quality he has as a driver. You and I have watched him through a number of categories, haven't we? And you know, getting the break to be a DTM driver is richly deserved, in my opinion. So very good, and second podium for Philipp Eng. Timo Glock then, I wasn't even aware of the championship position. Yeah, right. Oh dear, yes. So Timo Glock leads the championship, and we head off to the Norris Ring next. That's the next round of DTM from Chris Hartley and from myself up in the commentary booth. That's about it from us, but we'll leave the final words to our race winner, Marco Bittman.
Wow, so Marco, you did a fantastic job. I mean, coming from P14 to victory. Talk us through the race, especially after the restart. I mean, you just did everything right.
Yeah, it was a super crazy race. I mean, with the rain, which came quite early, we didn't expect that early. We hoped for rain, actually, and my team just made the right call. It was just a great job from them that we stopped when it started to rain. But I have to admit, it was super slippery in the pit lane. Even myself, I went wide and I nearly hit my guy. So I can understand what actually happened. And I think there is no blame to the drivers. It was super slippery. At the end, I think we hope the best for the guys which were insured after what happened. And well, I mean, at the restart, we knew that we are the first cars having already the pit stop in the pocket. So was clear that if we can keep the pace up, we can have a good result to finish on the podium. And I had from the beginning a good pace, good attack to Philipp, and then made a gap to my other BMW mates. And at the end, of course, I'm super happy. I mean, from 14, I didn't expect much, and from the pace yesterday we had, to be honest, I didn't thought about a single point, and today we scored the maximum 25. So yeah, sometimes you need to have as well a bit of the luck, and that's what we had today.
Turn of fortune that was. Thank you very much, Marco. A triple win for BMW, so that was fantastic. And now, of course, we're all looking forward to Norris Ring in 3 weeks. So that's it from us from Budapest. See you in 3 weeks. And here are the highlights. Enjoy.